Okay, hi, I'm Funkagenda. This is my studio at Tool Room Towers, and today I'm going to run you through some of the processes that I go through when I go to make a track. Well, first of all, what I'll do is I will show you just what I've got. It's like my basic auto load, because I think it's really important that you have as a producer, you're always going to have a series of instruments that you use every time. There's always going to be a series of effects that you use every time. So I think it's always a good idea to have those kind of pre-loaded up, as it were. So this is my Logic Auto load. If I just zoom in, you can see we've got 20 audio tracks. That's obviously for when you're doing remixes and stuff. People send you a load of parts, you can just put them in all at once. Then I've got a Guru, just for programming extra bits of percussion and stuff. 3 Logic ES1s, 3 Logic ESX24s. Then I've got my hardware set up on external instruments. So we've got the Nord lead, the Moog over here, and the Korg R3, which is a massively underrated keyboard, I think. We'll play some sounds off that in a bit. I've got my Virus set up with all the 16 channels separate as well, set up on a multi-timbal thing, because there's some amazing sounds in here just for kind of, sketching ideas out and stuff. And then I've just got some blank audio instruments at the end just for throwing some extra, bits and bobs in there.
Do you have an effects on your master channel?
Not while I'm producing, because I think what tends to happen is if you put too many effects on that as you produce, sometimes you forget to take them off. You'll bounce with the limiter, and everything will come out really, really maxed and whatever, and it kind of starts to affect the actual dynamic of the instrument. So I wait until the very end to put the mastering strip on. I've got several different mastering strips which I'll run you through when we get to the end. Also, you'll notice I've got the hidden tracks button turned on at the moment, and that's because I also have a series of grooves from the various different bits of software that I use. So if you come into here, you'll notice that on top of the normal Logic quantizers that I've also got Ableton's quantize set at 50 and 99, and I've got Guru's NTV swing, which is the kind of really hazy swingy one, set at 25, 50, 75 and 100%. Obviously, because I use Guru, sometimes it's easier to just, if you want to get things matched up and synced up really quickly, and swinging in time with each other, you could use Logic 16C, but they're slightly off. So that sometimes you get like a little bit of flamming. So I've just made sure I've got all of these set up as well, so that you can just get everything synced really quickly. With my auto load for this one, I've got the screen set up. I've had these same screen sets now since like Logic 5.5. So like a lot of people like to use this keyboard editor at the bottom here, but because 5.5 didn't have that, or 6, or 7 in fact, I always had a separate one set up on button 6 where I could just go into the piano roll. So you'll find that like quite often you'll see the screen sort of whizzing around like this, like this. That's just as I'm sort of flicking through the things. My basic screen setup is, 1 is my main window for arrangement, 2 is the environment page, not the mixer page, because there's certain things that you can only do on the environment page that you can't do on the mixer. Individual sort of routing things that you can do on this page that you can't do on the mixing page. So I always have this one set up on 2. 3 is the same as number 1, but with the audio being open. So it just saves me having to go up here and keep pressing the media button to bring the drawer out. I can just switch between the main window and the one with the audio bin if I need to access my samples. 4 is the main thing with the mixer page opened up at the bottom. 5 is the actual mixer, and obviously this one, I use for sort of quick references on the mix down, and also for rearranging plugins and multiple changing sort of things on multiple outs and whatever. although, like I say, I tend to favour the arrangement the environment page, because it's the one that I've always seen from all the old versions. 6 is my piano roll, and then number 9 is like a kind of really zoomed out kind of overview of the whole track. So if I'm going to start a track, obviously I always start with a kick drum. I've got a lot of sample libraries. To be honest, way too many sample libraries. I should really. Here we go. I've got a whole.
Any particular favourites?
Yeah, I must admit, Dead Mouse's new one's very, very, very good. And obviously all the Vengeance stuff's great, but it's a little bit overused now. But I'm actually currently working on my own sample library, and I've been using a lot of stuff from there recently as well. You know, some of it's sampled, some of it's created, you know, but it's all kind of, you know, stuff that I've picked myself and stuff that I've processed myself. So we'll go into there for the kick drum. This is one that I just added the other day, which I really kind of like, which is just kind of a really good sort of solid housey kind of affair. I mean, there's a lot in there. I usually start around about 126 BPM, but sometimes that can change. That's something, you know, sometimes, you know, you'll nip out for 5 minutes and you'll come back and it feels like the whole thing's a little bit too rushed, so I might want to knock it down. But also, whenever I copy stuff, I always, I don't just use the alternate key for copying. I actually do everything as aliases, because I find when you're looking at this, when you start to copy just using alternate, you start to get all these things running down the side of the screen, all these different versions of the kicks, and you find it really difficult to isolate single bits of audio that you're working on. So I always use aliases.
So what's the different keystroke for that?
It's holding down Alt and Shift, and that, as you'll see, you can keep copying, but you still only end up with just one referenced kick. And then obviously if you want to make an edit, like you want to flip one or reverse one, or, you know, alter a particular one's different length, then you can just create one individual copy by not holding down Shift. And it just kind of minimises the amount of workflow that you've got going on in your audio bin.
Better for your computer as well, I guess.
Well, obviously, yeah, because you're not using multiple versions of each sample, you're just referencing one individual point. That helps to reduce the amount of hard disk sort of accessing that's going on. So I find it really keeps the CPU down as well. One of the tricks I used to have when I used to use a PC was I had Logic 5.5 back then, and my processor wasn't particularly good, and it would keep. Once you've got a really big track in there, it would really start to struggle and stall. So I used to go back through and then start replacing all the audio that I'd used with aliases, and that used to really sort of take the CPU load down. So also I make sure I never max out the channels. So a lot of people probably start and they just go straight in at sort of at 0 or 100% or whatever. But I always start about 60 with my kick drums, and then just turn the system up and work from there, because it means you won't get a distorted recording then, or nothing's too overdriven. So that'll be like the basic sort of starting point. Generally I'll reach for, you know, get something in on Guru, like maybe just like hats and claps or whatever. But it kind of depends what I'm working on in terms of the track. I think today we'll go for something just maybe like a little bit kind of funkier and upbeat, and, you know, something that's not so dark. So I'm going to go for quite a live sounding clap. Again, I think I'll probably go for, I've got quite a few bits knocking around in my own sample CD for this sort of sound, so let's just take that off. See, I quite like that, so I'm just going to roll a little bit of the bottom end off it using Guru's filters. This is a brilliant little trick on Guru. I mean, you know, obviously not really a trick, but a lot of people don't use don't tend to edit the pads very much when they're in there, you know what I mean? But I find it's, you know, using stuff like the low cut or the high pass filters just to sort of shape the bottom end of your snares and your hi-hats. It's really nice. So you can just get you can hear, you know, the sort of difference. About there keeps it quite live. I'm just going to take the back end off as well. I do a lot of, I like my samples to be really kind of clean and tight, so I tend to sort of do a lot of editing, whatever. Now, here you can see where this has been done. There's a sort of the kick sort of starts there, so there's a little bit of pre-clap. So what I've got to do is I've got to shift the snare back a little bit so that the little pre-clap comes before the actual kick. And the way you do that is, if you go into the graph editor, there's a whole series of things that can be altered with Guru along here. The one we're looking for is the shift graph. You'll see it switches to the top there, and then if you push this up, it's going to push the snare forward, and if you pull it down, it's going to pull the snare back. So what we want to do is just pull it back so that it sits so that the clap just drops before you can hear the difference between this one kind of sits on the beat now and that one doesn't, so I'm just going to copy that over. And that gives you that kind of nice live sort of feel on the clap. And I think we'll just use that as the basis.